Hi everyone, my name is Isabel Meza and I am the Education and Outreach Program Lead at Irish Manufacturing Research. First of all, I would like to welcome you all to this Science Week 2021 event, which is presented in partnership with Midlands Science. Irish Manufacturing Research is a leading technology and research organization providing a portfolio of training, consultancy, and research services to industry. Midlands Science is a non-for-profit company which works to create a greater interest in STEM, science, engineering, technology, and maths among students, teachers, and the members of the public in the Midlands. This event will explore a variety of roles and careers within the STEM field and will feature some excellent questions which have been sent in from second-level students around the Midlands. I would like now to welcome our guest speakers who are joining us today remotely. Firstly, I would like to welcome Charlie Behan, who is an extended reality specialist at Irish Manufacturing Research. I would also like to welcome Sarah Sharkey, who works as a software engineer for Stripe. And we also have Océane Laveau, who is currently a product engineer at Medtronic. We're conscious that because of the pandemic, many schools have not been able to host career talks in a normal way. That's why we hope that to our guests who have passion and dedication for their jobs, we can bring some inspirational advice and plenty insightful tips in STEM careers today as part of Science Week. Our host today is Mr. Paul Carroll. Paul's expertise combines many years of experience in HR practice, working for companies such as KPMG, Intel, and Getaway, with an additional 18 years in recruitment with CPL. Paul has been a member of the Midlands Science Board for a couple of years, and as a graduate in physics and maths himself, he has a real personal interest in STEM and the pathways that lead to them.
Guys, you're all very welcome. I'm originally from Tullamore. I actually trained to be a teacher in the Sacred Heart School, but never actually worked as a teacher. And as Isabel said there, I've had 4 distinct careers and I'm now going into my 5th. And that's one of the main points that I want to use this opportunity to express, that there is more than one way to get you to the next stage. And it's very interesting to see our 3 guest speakers who've all come from one background and have worked in a different background, and that's only after a couple of years. One of the things that we noticed in our time with CPL is that we would register a job by its job title and its job description. One of the most fascinating things is that in the last 5 years, we have doubled the number of job titles and job descriptions. And that's because the jobs that we are now putting up and registering didn't exist 5 years ago. So the challenge is, how do you prepare for a job that doesn't exist? Because the job you're likely to do won't exist by the time you've started college and may exist by the time you've finished. So let's hear what our guests have to say about that. Maybe what I'd ask you first to do is just give us a brief introduction. Let's start with Sarah. Sarah, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. I'm Sarah. I did a computer science degree in Trinity after finishing school. I actually discovered computer science in 4th year. I wasn't at all exposed to tech, so this is kind of a roundabout way to get into it. And then after that, I did a few internships in school, in college, and now I'm a software engineer at Stripe for the last 2 years.
Now, what do you mean by software engineer? What does that mean?
Building software, so anything that's pretty much built on the usually on the internet, but building stuff that you might experience on your phone. So if you're scrolling through Facebook, if you're using a funny filter on TikTok or Snapchat, if you're sending money to a friend or trying to find the cheapest flight on Skyscanner, this is all built by software engineers.
And that's writing code on a computer.
Yes, yeah. So we tell the computer what to do. That's pretty much how it works.
So, Océane, what a beautiful name. What about you? Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, Pauline. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so, well, I'm product engineer in the supplier quality team in Medtronic, but I joined Medtronic very recently, 2 months ago. So before that, I was working in Irish manufacturing research, where, well, Charlie and Isabel are currently working. And I was doing a completely different job, so working in R&D in 3D printing. But I actually graduated from mechanical engineering, and before that from another field, thermal engineering. So that's the overall.
So it's as if you wanted to prove my point that there's not just one way to get to where you are. You can go many different directions and get there in the end, yes?
Yes, Paul. There's lots of different ways to come somewhere. There's a lot of different paths, and every experience really brings something something new in your skill set. So
very good, very good. And Charlie, I know what you're going to tell me, and I'm not going to understand it.
Yeah, so I guess my background, I studied games development in college because I wanted to make video games. But now I work as an XR specialist at IMR, so working with companies to develop augmented or virtual reality applications.
Yeah, you see what I mean? XR, virtual reality, augmented reality. What are you talking about, man?
It is pretty confusing. There's a lot of like acronyms, but I guess XR, it means both AR and VR. So what they are is virtual reality is like, I guess, strapping a TV to your face. But they're really good at making it now. So like the VR headsets are actually these small like glasses that you wear, and you see like a virtual space. And then so like, yeah, and you can look around and see like a complete virtual world. Meanwhile, augmented reality, AR, is just like regular glasses. So when you can see everything around you like normal, but when you put on the augmented glasses, you still see everything around you like normal, but there's some small virtual objects augmented onto it, such as like there's nothing on the table, you put on the glasses, and then you see some instructions or videos pop up on the table. And manufacturing companies really like that because it's a lot safer as well.
So are you honestly telling us that you get paid to play games all day?
It's pretty close. That's why I made the switch. No, not really. But I do really enjoy getting to work with like some of the latest technology devices, like the VR headsets and AR headsets.
Tell me, Sarah, Stripe is a very interesting company. They're not that old, sure they're not?
No, I think we just hit our 10-year anniversary the last month. So yeah, not that old at all. We still, even though we're kind of getting bigger these days, it still feels like we're kind of a startup. I think in the years to come, we're going to get even bigger and bigger.
Medtronic has had a few changes over the years. Is it a pharmaceutical company, or does it regard itself as a chemical company, or what category would it be, Océane?
It's a medical device company, but that's true. It changed a lot over the years, and well, they bought other companies as well. So Medtronic works in lots of different fields. You have the cardiovascular, the neurology. They do equipment as well, surgical equipments, and there's a bit of pharma as well. So it's very wide. But in Galway, it's specifically on cardiovascular.
But now you save lives.
Yes. Yeah. No.
How do you save lives? Tell me a little bit about that.
How do we save lives? By the products that you're proposing. So, well, if it's cardiovascular, you save life by doing a product that allows you to remove any clot in the veins, or propose a solution for heart disease. So, yeah, if it's not saving life, it's actually helping lives anyway.
Well, I know a few people whose lives you've saved, and I thank you for that. Charlie, what about this Irish manufacturing research? Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, well, we work with like a wide range of manufacturing companies, mostly in Ireland, and we just help them use new technologies to either improve quality of products or improve health and safety. And they're the main areas that I guess I'd be working in with AR and VR.
Where are you based out of?
Mullingar and Rackul. So me personally is the Mullingar office, and that's where I am today.
Very good. And that's where where all our hero Niall Horan is from. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Curious though, if you think about it, even in your short careers, all of you, and any one of you come in and comment on this, what do you think has allowed you to change from what you trained in to what you're doing?
I think it's the fact that the market really evolved and people are looking at different skill sets, or the jobs evolved in a way that now there's people to be more complete. So they would work for someone that doesn't necessarily have expertise in what they are doing now, but has a different background. So I think that's what, well, anyway, allowed me to work in Medtronic right now.
I'm going to ask all three of you this. We'll start with Océane. Did you ever have a mentor or somebody who actually inspired you to do what you're doing?
Yes and no. It started very early, well, in my very early, well, childhood, if I can say, where I remember the big sister of one of my friends. She was an engineer, but I barely knew what an engineer was. But I understood that it was fairly cool. But then it started evolving where I actually haven't really met anyone that was doing what I do right now. So yeah, you're always inspired by people. Yeah, in this case, it was an older female that was engineer for me. But then you believe.
What about you, Sarah? Did you have any mentor or somebody who inspired you?
Honestly, I actually didn't. I kind of stumbled across the industry. In fourth year, I signed up to a bunch of different workshops because that's what fourth year is about. And I ended up doing a computer science workshop in Trinity. It was just a week-long course, and we did a lot of, it was mainly focused on problem solving. So at one point, we broke into teams. We were given a piece of paper, and we said, okay, you have to get your entire team through this piece of paper. So you had to cut a pattern so that you could make it big enough so that you could put your whole team through and that kind of thing. So I think after that week, I just decided that's for me. I kind of just jumped in heads first. I knew that I loved programming, and we got a sense of what programming was like. So when I actually went into college, I don't think I actually knew what the term software engineer was. I just knew that I like the idea of computer science. I like this. This seems cool. And then I kind of realized, wow, this is even better than I thought it was going to be, and discovered all about software engineering.
And Charlie, what about you? Did you have anybody who you would regard as a mentor or an inspiration for your career?
I guess so. I never really met them, but there was a game I used to play when I was younger, and I remember just thinking like how cool it was for that game designer who made it. And I kind of wanted to like copy him. So I looked up like all the stuff that he did, all the early games he did, and I tried to replicate them and copy. I copied them too much, to be honest. But anyway, then I got to college, and I guess I put on a VR headset, and I got distracted and just went this way. But I think I learned a lot from looking at someone and just kind of following their path.
Slightly different topic, but interesting for the times that we're in. We've all had to change the way we work. Charlie, would you talk to me a bit about how has the last 2 years changed the way you work?
Well, the transition for me was pretty good because I spent a lot of time at my computer at home. It's kind of like my hobby as well. So I know when everyone went home to work from home, they were all like, oh, I'm working on a kitchen table. Meanwhile, I was kind of like set up with my screens and my cozy chair already. Like I usually do gaming. But yeah, it's difficult though. You do really want to get back into the office and meet people. Like when I started here at IMR, I was only in the office 3 days before the first COVID lockdown happened. And it was just very odd then for the past like year and a half now. And there's still people I haven't met in the office, but luckily we're getting chances and opportunities to go back in there. So I'm taking them when I can. Can
you share with us what your last 2 years have been like?
Well, my last 2 years have been quite divided because for one part of the 2 years I've been working in IMR and the other part is in Medtronic. So in IMR, I actually had to go to the office quite a bit because my work was really related into manual work, working on the machines. So I found the beginning very, very great. Well, I could stay at home when I had reports where I was very efficient, and I was going to the office when, well, I had to work on the machine. So on that, I have to say I was very lucky. I think I didn't suffer that much from working from home. But then since I joined Medtronic, well, I'm not back in the office anymore. So you join in a context that's you don't know the company, you don't meet the people in person indirectly. So it's really hard to create bonding or getting people involved when you ask them to do something. And I work with a product that I've never seen in my life. So yeah, that's the other side of the challenge as well.
Okay, well, I've got three more questions. One around the past, one around the future, and one around attitude. So, Charlie, if I could ask you first, if you could put yourself back to your 15-year-old self or your 16-year-old self, what would you say to that person?
So no, I guess when I was around that age, I was always thinking like I wasn't too good at like the technical stuff. Like I looked at programming or the computer stuff, and I always thought I wanted to be like a designer and the art side. And to be honest, I wasn't even good at that, but that was what I enjoyed the most. But like now I find myself actually working in the technical side, and I guess I just tell myself that like you can always learn something, just to take the time and learn it. And I don't think anyone is like not good at something or they can't learn something just for some reason. I just think if you put the time in, you can learn it. And that's probably what I just remind myself, because I certainly wouldn't believe I'd be doing the technical stuff if I told my 16-year-old self now.
And Océane, what would you tell your 15 or 16-year-old self?
At the time, I was very shy and perfectionist. So I would say, well, just relax and yeah, well, everything doesn't need to be perfect. You're not on your own. So yeah.
Very good. And Sarah, what would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Yeah, I think I would probably agree with Océane, not to sweat the small stuff. I think I was very hyper focused on the leaving cert in particular. I definitely stressed myself too much out of that. I still have back issues to this day, I think. So I think I would just kind of take a breather, kind of realize that, you know, the future is whatever you want it to be, and, you know, not to there's no point stressing yourself out over anything, even the leaving cert, which I know has a lot of you know, a lot of people do stress about it, but I think that I would kind of tell myself, you know, relax, you know, it's no big deal, it's few exams, try your best and see what happens.
Well, that's a lovely segue into my next question, Sarah. So we'll stay with you if we can. Can you predict the future? Can you predict your future? What do you see for yourself in I don't know, 5 or even 10 years' time?
Yeah, I always find this kind of a difficult question because I really don't know. And I always kind of get nervous if I'm going to do an interview for a new job that they're going to ask me this, because, you know, also they want me to have a plan, but I'm kind of mostly just going with flow. I think right now I'm really enjoying being a software engineer. I think I'm still quite like inexperienced. I'd like to get grow in my career, try different projects and that kind of thing. But in like, let's say 5 years time, when I am more experienced, I'm kind of maybe leading more, who knows where it'll take me. I might decide at some stage to segue into something else. So for now, I'm just happy where I am and just want to grow in this area.
I think it's very interesting that you said that about what happens in an interview when you have a question like that thrown at you. Two things occurs to me when you say that. One is, when we are training our interviewers in recruitment, we actually train them not to ask that question because it's a hypothetical question, and therefore the answer is only going to be hypothetical. And you cannot predict the future, but you can have an ambition. And I guess the other point that we would make to candidates is that there are certain questions that you know they're going to ask, so you can actually prepare for those questions and have what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. And of course your weakness is, I'm impatient and I want to get the job done, or I'm a perfectionist and I'm going to be fantastic at everything I do. Océane, what's your prediction for the future?
I have to say, Paul, I think I'm going to answer the same thing as Sarah. I hate this question. I don't know what I'm going to do. What I just know is after every experience that I have, I learn something new. And even as I evolve, I get a bit older, I'm looking for something different. So 3 years ago, I really wanted to work in technology, and I worked in 3D printing at IMR. And during my role in IMR, I started to deal a lot more with helping companies, working with patient-specific devices or helping people. And that's what I was looking for after all. So now I'm just, what I want to do is help more people, but I don't know what I'm gonna think in 2 years' time. So,
would you have any view, Charlie, on whether or not it's attitude or aptitude that makes the difference?
Well, yeah, definitely. It's willingness to learn and stuff like that. That you can just, I think that's something about companies now as well. They're not really looking for someone that has exact experience in the role. It's more just like if they're interested in it and ready to learn it. And that's what I think shines through most. And most companies are looking for that now.
So same question for Océane. What do you think? Attitude or aptitude?
I'd definitely say aptitude, yeah. Yeah. As Charlie said, companies are looking for someone that are willing to learn and to adapt to any circumstances as well. And you have the proper example with COVID. Lots of people didn't, well, they had to adapt. So if you adapt well, you're going to succeed. If you're not, you won't. So,
Sarah, what do you think? Attitude or aptitude?
Yeah, no, I definitely would I agree with Océane and Charlie. I think, especially after I'm part of, interview at Stripe for roles for like internships and new grads. And I think especially for those roles, we tailor for a candidate not knowing everything. They might have a weak spot, they might not even pass a particular interview, but we look at them as a whole and say, well, they actually show a lot of potential. They seem really interested. They kind of thought on their feet there, that kind of thing. And we kind of make the decision based on that. So it doesn't have to be, you know everything from the get-go. I think that once you have the willingness to learn, then that's a really important factor.
I'm so pleased you said that, Sarah. You said a very, very important word in that sentence for our target audience for this video. You used the word potential. So what you also said, if I'm interpreting you correctly, is that you don't necessarily hire somebody who has all the experience to do the job, but you hire the people that you believe will be able to do the job in the future with your help training. Have I read that correctly?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And even for, experienced engineers that we're hiring for, more experienced role, we're not like, we say like you can interview in whatever programming language you'd like, as in you don't have to be an expert in the language we use. You don't have to be an expert in, don't even need to know about payments. I knew neither of which, I just needed to show that I had some sort of an interest and some sort of kind of skill level there, but definitely don't need experience in everything.
Well, Sienna, just again, thinking about the target audience that we have, is there anything that you would say to that 15, 16, 17-year-old person that says you can get a job in my company if you do the following?
If you want to work, what I do at the moment, well, that's what I did anyway. I did a mechanical engineering degree, which is very general. And the most generic you are, the more possibly adaptable you'd be in a company like that, because it's quite broad. It's not some specific skills learning language in IT. So yeah, just going with the flow and learning while listening to people as well, because getting other people's feedback will help you to build yourself.
And Charlie, if any of our audience wants to get a job in your company, what would you tell them to be doing, or how can they prepare to get to work with you?
I guess make some stuff is probably the best thing. Whether it works or doesn't, it's just like if you have some stuff that you can show that you spent time on, you made it, whether it's, I don't know, a video game or an application or something like that. Whether it worked or it didn't, being able to talk about what you learned from it and why it didn't work or why it did work. I think like that just shows like massive initiative to go and wanting to work in the role.
Okay, one fun question, and I'll ask you this, Sarah, first. I want you to completely think outside the box. If you weren't doing what you are doing, what job would you like to do? And you can pick everything from rock star to celebrity chef to traffic warden. What would you do if you weren't doing what you're doing?
One of my favorite subjects in school that I kind of just do as a hobby now is drawing. So I like to use oil pastels and just especially draw faces. Lately I've been drawing celebrities, drew Rihanna and I don't know, some random people. So I kind of just do it for fun, but I do really enjoy it. So that's something I like. I did German in school, and I'm just realizing I would love to get my German back. So I'm going to start doing German classes again. Not that that's a profession, maybe I'll move to Germany or something. But I guess my answer would be probably I'd like to be an artist, maybe designer or something like that.
So again, in recruitment, one of the things we say is that people find their talents and find their expression, regardless of whether it's in their job. So what I'm hearing you saying is that you are finding other ways of expressing your talents that are beyond your current job. Is that correct?
Oh, completely. Yeah, for sure. I know on my day I do software engineering, but I think it makes you think about things differently, and maybe your brain kindly starts to look at different things differently. So maybe I don't know, how I approach German, how I approach drawing has changed. So it's made me kind of grow my interest in those areas again.
And Océane, you look like a rock star. So tell me, what would you be doing if you weren't doing what you're doing now?
That's a very good question. And I have to say, there's every once in a while I question myself saying, well, am I still going to do engineering or not? I think I'd possibly go into cooking. My little brother is a chef, and yeah, he inspires me in a way. So yeah.
Okay. So my point really is that there's more than one way of getting to where we want to be. Charlie, have you any views as to what you would be doing if you weren't doing what you're doing today?
Maybe games development, but I guess another thing a bit more different would be I really like filmmaking. So like anytime I go anywhere or do anything, I like to make videos about it and stuff like that. So maybe I'd love to get more into that. But then also when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a pilot. I have no idea what got me into it, but I used to like play a lot, again, video games of being a pilot. So maybe that was where it came from.
Okay, well, before I go back to Pauline, I just want to ask one last question. All of you have described yourselves as engineers. So, Charlie, what's an engineer?
I actually really don't like this question. I ask myself that question. I just like, some people say like, "Oh, you're an engineer," and I'm like, "I'm not an engineer." I actually don't know. People that create things.
I'll ask the girls because it's an interesting topic. What's an engineer? Sarah, please.
Yeah, I guess I would say an engineer is someone that puts things together, builds things. So a software engineer would build software. Electrical engineer would more towards electric. So I know that's kind of vague, but I think that's how vague you can be, because different engineers do completely different things. Like in mechanical engineering, so Océane mentioned, we all do vastly different things, but I think the common theme is building, solving problems, trying to figure something out and putting something together in whatever tools are appropriate.
Well, I see again that's part of the reason why I asked the question. Of the 30 years that I worked in CPL, we always had at least one engineer on our board. So it's actually, from my perspective, it's a very flexible word. Océane, have you any views as to what's an engineer?
Yeah, I'd agree with what's a point that Sarah made. I think what any engineers do at the end of the day, it's problem solving. So it's when you work as an engineer, basically you're solving problems all the time, whatever field it's in. So it's possibly getting someone that has lots of technical skills and solve problems.
Pauline, can I bring you back into the conversation? I understand we had a number of questions that were sent in from the target audience. Would you like to share them with us?
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, guys. That was really interesting. Yeah, we had a couple of questions coming in. We had a question there from Mary in Tullamore College, and maybe Sarah might answer this question. She was curious as to being a female in your field. How did that affect your experiences and employment?
I guess to start off, I went to an all-girls school, so and my school was slightly more. Yeah, I guess I didn't have as much exposure to engineering and tech industry as I would have hoped. So we didn't have any like technology subjects or engineering or woodwork or anything like that. So I think I think the first experience of being a woman in engineering in that career is just not really having exposure initially. So thankfully I kind of stumbled across it myself and got into it. But I think I would have preferred to have maybe kind of known about it sooner, have been taught a bit more about it and that kind of thing. And then, so then I went to college, which was quite male dominated. I remember my first day coming in, going from an all-girls school to almost an all-boys course was a little intimidating, but I think I found I grew into my own. You know, I started to get more confident, you know, maybe like in some instances doing better than the boys, always felt good. So, you know, I think even though I would have preferred to see a bit more diversity in the course, which I actually think is getting better these days. I've seen, I remember even when I was graduating, seeing the new first year course had a lot more women in it. So that was really cool. But yeah, no, I think in college, I definitely kind of got a bit more confident. But then in work, I've actually only had good experiences in my internships and in Stripe. I think I've been treated completely fairly. My opinion is always valued. But I think one thing that women sometimes do, I'm not going to speak for all women, but I've noticed that in a meeting, even if I'm the expert in the area, I'll say, well, I think this is it, so maybe we should do that, or I'm not so sure, so maybe being very tentative, being very cautious about what I'm saying in case I'm wrong, whereas the men will be, I know this, yeah, we should do that, let's do that, whatever, and being a lot more assertive. So something that myself and some of the other women in Stripe, we kind of try to encourage each other to stop doing that, to if we know something, say we know it, be more confident, and without being cocky, but you can still, you know, get your point across. So in general, my experience as a woman in tech has been overall really good, and I'm very lucky to be working in companies that, you know, I actually have a lot of diversity. So in my particular team in Stripe, 3 out of 4 engineers are women, and soon to be 4 out of 5 engineers are women, which is kind of an anomaly, but which is pretty cool getting to work with a lot of females.
Thanks very much indeed. And there's a question here from Louise from the Bower in Athlone. And Charlie, I think I'll ask you this. What's the biggest challenge doing your job?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest challenge would be to not get carried away, I guess. It's like, it happens in like every project with AR, VR, the technology is really amazing. Like, it's amazing what you can do. And when someone says their problem, everyone first goes to like thinking almost like you know, an Iron Man or Tony Stark, where he has a whole like virtual lab. It's like, you can definitely do that right now with these devices, but it's not realistic to kind of put it straight onto a factory floor and for it to be running reliably and updated by everyone in that company. So it's just knowing where to draw the line and be realistic. And that's a big problem that happens on almost all projects, not to get too carried away with the technology at the start.
Thanks a million. We have a question here then, I think we'll ask Sarah. It's from Luke in Mount Mellick. How has your field changed our world?
So earlier I mentioned, you know, what a software engineer is. You know, we build software, so we tell computers what to do. So any part of the world that involves like, yeah, computers, devices, that kind of thing, a software engineer has, you know, had input there. So given how big the tech industry is growing, all new big startups and lots of cool apps and different, even like things like VR, AR, and everything like that. Software engineering is part of it. So how Stripe is changing things is, especially over the pandemic, where in-person interaction has been largely reduced and payments, everything's kind of going to online. A lot of small companies that previously would have went under from the pandemic because they only had face-to-face interactions, cash in hand, that kind of thing, now we're forced to go online. So we've heard loads of user stories of not companies, but even just like, you know, a vineyard, a very small vineyard in France that was struggling to make ends meet because they couldn't do their business anymore. They set up an account on Stripe, were able to accept payments, and it kept them afloat throughout the pandemic. So I think hearing things like that we're helping the world for the better, and that helping businesses get started, keeping people, you know, afloat when challenging times like the pandemic happens, always feels great. So yeah, I think that's a very Stripe specific example, but I also find we always listen to user stories of people that have joined Stripe, how they've grown, how we've helped them. And, you know, we hear the phrase a lot, like, oh, I couldn't have done my business without Stripe, kind of thing. So yeah, no, it's definitely a good feeling.
Thanks a million, Sarah. Just 2 more questions then. One from Amanda from Longford. I think maybe Océane might answer this. What's your favorite part of your job? Or is there any particular project that you've worked on?
I'd like to give two answers to that. So with my two careers, recent careers, well, just recent job. And the one kind of will link to the other in a way. So when I was working in IMR, my favorite project was helping a company to implement scanning in developing prosthesis for patients that lost a part of their leg. And what I loved about it was the fact that we were helping the company and we were helping the patients. So that, well, hence why I'm working in Medtronic now. And in Medtronic, what I do is basically you source components to make your product. And if there's a problem with the component that you source, my job is to work with the supplier, so the person that makes the component, to see what they can do best and how. So there's this part. And when they have to implement a change in their process, we have to validate it. So I think what I like is the very technical aspect of it. Always try to understand why, how, and find answer for that. So yeah, that's my favorite part of the job, really.
Thanks, Océane. And then finally, a question in from Connor in Port Arlington. And Charlie, you probably have sort of answered this. Is there any advice you'd give someone who wanted a similar career to yours?
Well, I know, like, as you said, yeah, it's like this career didn't exist 5 years ago. I didn't see it as that. And I just wanted to work in video games. And when I was in secondary school, that's what I was trying to do. But like, I thought I couldn't do it because of like the CAO points are too high. I think there were 300 points and my grades weren't great, so I couldn't get in. So then I was able to go through and do like a PLC, which is a multimedia course. That's the PLC I did. And I could do an extra year of learning multimedia content or programming a little bit. And then I was able to re-choose my course and use that to get into it. And that's where I went into games development. And then, sorry, I guess I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but it's like, I didn't really know where I wanted to go, but just look at all the options that you have and choose to just keep going until you find the one that you enjoy the most. And you don't have to go make your decision right away at Leave Cert. I hope that answers the question.
Oh, it certainly does, yeah. The different paths into it. It's not always by an initial degree, and I suppose being flexible and being able to adjust. That's all the questions we have from students.
Pauline, thank you. Thank you for that. I want to thank Charlie and Sarah and Océane for their time. You're three genuinely inspirational people. Really are. Well done, you guys. And Isabel, would you like to close us down with your closing remarks?
I would just like to thank you all. Really, every time I hear, these kind of workshops, I just love them even more. What we have seen, it's that we need more people in engineering, STEM in general, technology, and just to make sure that you're not afraid to pursue a career in it just because it looks scary. My background is in engineering, but look, I changed to education. We are not all good at everything. There is something out there that you might like or enjoy, and just try to do that. And that's it. Just thank you all for your questions and for your time, and I hope you enjoy this event.